right, we'll start with just a recap from this past weekend. You know, many times you kind of get a chance to, regroup after the press conference, which, I don't want to go on a long dissertation, but they should have the post-game press conferences today. I mean, it would be so much easier on everybody. You get a chance to watch the film, and you kind of just calm down. It's like you're right in it. We were just, in a battle, and emotions are what they are. But today, I feel a lot better. We won the game. We dominated them statistically within that game. Our defense, up until late in the game where we made some substitutions, was poised for a shutout. And anytime you can get that, you're really pleased. I think from an offensive standpoint, some individual performances. Barry Brown was outstanding. It was good to see Harlan Berry get involved and do some really good things. Xavion, multi-dimensional, running the football. 9 of 16, I think, on third down efficiency. So, a lot of really good things. So what's the overall perspective after the game is that we didn't underperform. If we underperformed, we probably put that game in reach for LaTech and maybe lose the game. But it was not an elite performance. And as I mentioned to you, that performance is everybody. I have to coach better. Our coaches have to be better teachers and coaches. We've got to be much more organized in certain areas. And then our players have to reach and exceed the standard of what we expect and what they expect from themselves. And we didn't have that across the board. So, as I stand here before you, we're 2-0. We learned a lot of lessons. And the lessons now become great lessons if we learn. You got to learn from them. You can't just have lessons and go, I didn't learn much. So looking back on it, there's a lot of good things to take out of this game for us moving into the SEC play and an outstanding opponent in Florida. So with that, I'll segue right into the game this weekend. And I'll start with, we're in Tiger Stadium. And so we need to be Death Valley. We need to live up to our resume as the most difficult place to play in the country because it's SEC time. So you had your warm-up tailgates, you got your recipes down, you got how much you need for drinking. Now, let's go get it. Let's make Tiger Stadium what it has been built on, and that is an incredibly difficult place to play. And so that's my first shout out to our fan base. We need you this weekend. And then we'll provide the standard in terms of how we need to play. It's a really good football team we're playing in Florida. And we know that. It starts with their quarterback. DJ is really arm talent off the charts. He can throw the football. He's a guy that, when you look at quarterbacks in this league, he has elite talent. But he's got guys around him. Jaden Baugh is really difficult to defend. He's physical. He's got great instincts. He's got toughness. He's 230 pounds. And now you complement him with the freshman, Vernell Brown, who is an electric receiver and probably one of the more consistent guys on their team is, Eugene Wilson at the slot. I mean, they have a nice balance of running the football and certainly the quarterback position and some skill guys on the offensive side of the ball. So I love the center Slaughter. Barber's a great tackle. So they get some really good football players. From a defensive standpoint, Coach Roberts does a really good job with simulated pressures, 3 down, 4 down, giving you looks, mixing things up to make it really difficult. And from a defensive perspective, we saw the 3-3-5 and, had some difficulties with that recognition. It'll certainly be similar in terms of what they try to do and make things difficult and keep the ball in front of them. They do a great job of not giving up big plays and keeping the points down. Really solid in special teams. Smack's got a huge leg. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Brown, he's averaging 21 yards per punt return. So this is a talented football team. And, look, I can't predict, what happened with them versus this week. They were the better team. They didn't play to their standard. So they're going to play to their standard this week, and we know that. Playing Florida is always a big game on everybody's schedule. We'll just need to worry about ourselves and play to our standard. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
What did the MRI show for Braylon and Trades? How many games do you think they're going to miss, and what's the plan without them in the meantime?
MRIs, were positive. We didn't get the true sense that we have a high ankle sprain with Braylon. There was nothing that gave us that sense that when we looked at the MRI that, hey, this is a tightrope procedure and he's going to be out for, 4 weeks. He's going to be day to day. We'll get him out there tomorrow. We'll see how he feels. He felt better today. So I think we're going to list him as questionable, and that could change to probable as we go through the week. We'll see how he progresses. Trades has a sprain. The good news is it's a sprained MCL. And so, as you know, those are injuries that you can come back from, and rather quickly. We'll see where he is. We'll list him as questionable and work our way through the week and see where he is at the end of the week.
Hey, Coach Kelly, right here.
Yes, sir.
You win at Clemson and Louisiana Tech. You mentioned that y'all did well in the stat category. If that's a game where y'all win 42-0, 49-0, do you think getting the guys more prepared this week after playing a game they didn't meet up to their standards, do you think that now can open their eyes? Because if y'all just smoked Louisiana Tech, I'm sure everybody would have felt like, hey, we're 2-0, we're number 3 in America, we're great, and everybody's telling them they're great. Some people are, kind of pumping the brakes now. Do you feel like that can give you an edge this week to get the guys to refocus?
Yeah, I don't think we listen to the narratives as much as we really focus on, what are the things that we would learn. I would rather won 49-0. We would have got a chance to get a lot of other guys in the game that we could not get into the game that deserve to play. But on the other side of it, it shows you that you've got a consistent team that clearly understands, how to prepare and then how to perform at a high level. That wasn't an elite performance. So we go back to our process, and our process is, how did we prepare during the week? What are some of the things that we need to do better and double down on? And so if you ask me, I'd like to win and learn lessons. That's really the crux of this. And, we won the game, and we learned some really good lessons.
Yeah, Brian, the running game on Saturday, was it a lack of, for better words, play calling as far as a variety of different runs, which you had at Clemson, or was it more execution, or both?
I think we have to, there's some things that we can address relative to the fundamentals and teaching and technique. I think we can be technically better. It's a difficult defense to run on. I mean, it's a 3-3 with, a middle rover. It's a difficult, doesn't mean you can't, and we did. We got the ball outside. We were able to carve enough. We want to be better, and that's kind of what I'm saying to you in the same breath of we want to improve and be critical in our analysis. There are some things that we need to do better as coaches and players, and I think that's probably the run game more than anything else.
With Trades Green being out, how critical do you think?
He's not out.
Questionable, sorry.
Okay, there you go.
With Trades Green being questionable, how important do you think it will be for Chris Hilton to step up against Florida's secondary?
Yeah, I mean, Chris is an important part, right? I mean, but, they play different positions. We need, Bauer Sharp is going to have to play. We hope that Trades plays. We're not sure yet. We'll let the week kind of dictate that. But we're better positioned. Donovan Green is an experienced player that can step in and give us the things that we need. And look, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we all know it's not one player. Would we like him there? Yeah, we hope he's playing on Saturday. But if he's not, we'll be prepared to make adjustments.
Right. Not to suggest you should have approached it differently, but do you think all the emphasis on beating Clemson, I mean, months of it, do you think that led to something of a letdown in intensity or focus for the game last week?
No, and I'm honest with you, right? I'll tell you what I see. Our effort was really good. Our pregame was really good. We weren't flat, lacking emotion. You worry about that sometimes with what you just said, is that did you get too high for one and then dip down? Ours was really much more about the details. Our focus was not great from everybody. There were some that had great focus, but we need that from everybody, and our attention to detail. So our traits were a little off. And when our traits are off a little bit, I go back to looking at, did we prepare as well this week, right, in that sense? And we're going to talk about it. And the preparation needs to be elite each and every week. It was elite against Clemson. We're going to ask that question to our team. Was our preparation elite? And I think we're going to find out that for some it was, and for others, we need to do better. And that's going back to, I want to learn lessons and win at the same time. But I really liked the energy we played with, the want to and the care, and not looking at LaTech and saying, well, this isn't Clemson. I didn't feel that at all. What I felt was lack of attention to detail in some areas. Look, we had a penalty. I'll give you an example. We're kicking off at the 50-yard line. Now, if you kick that thing out of bounds, it's a 30-yard penalty. They start on the 20, right? Or they tell you to back up 5, and then we kick it out of the end zone. That is a play we've gone over and over and over and over for tactical advantage, and we line drive it into the front line guy. Unacceptable. So we had things like that occur that is attention to detail and being on top of your work. And so if I felt like we were flat and unemotional and didn't play with a desire that we need to, I'd be a lot more worried going into this game.
Coach, last year in Gainesville, they really got after Nussmeier, their defensive line and so forth. What do they have back? What challenges are there? And if I could, does last year's game play any part of motivation or preparation for this week?
Yeah, it's a different team, different players. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I mean, their simulated pressures are really good. They had, a couple of big guys up front that we struggled a little bit with, but that's the SEC. Like, everybody's going to have really good players, and it really comes down to your focus and execution more than what Florida. And we respect the players that they have. Last year, we didn't convert. We didn't cash in when we got into opportunities to put touchdowns on the board. We field goal, we settled for field goals. So we have to score touchdowns. That was the case this weekend too, right? I mean, we get all the way down on a drive, we're kicking field goals. We need to convert when we get into that tough territory.
I guess just looking back at the film, just having more sense of what you saw Garrett do in that game, just what were some of your overall takeaways and just some of the conversations maybe you guys have had the last 24 hours?
It did some really good things. Look, his standard is so high. I mean, I think he's going to be in Mount Rushmore in about a month. I mean, it's crazy, the expectations. And he's still a college player that is working to get better. So there's some things that he would like to do better. And I think, he would tell you that, he learned a lot from last week. And that's great. That's all you want. At the end of the day, I want to see our guys go, I learned some things here that are going to help me be a better quarterback. And we'll ask all of our players, including Garrett, to think that way.
I got 2 if I can. How did DJ do being back in the driver's seat? And then you referenced the coaching and the preparation enough that makes me wonder, are you speaking game week or in-game kind of recognition and reacting?
DJ Chester starting at center if he has to start. We're very comfortable with him. I thought he did a nice job. 3 downs hard because you got somebody on your nose, right on top of you, and you're snapping the ball in shotgun situations. Look, to have a guy like him is invaluable, right? I mean, he didn't take a ton of snaps the last couple of weeks at center. We had him out at left tackle. He's played guard. He's so valuable, and he went in there and he did a heck of a job. When I talk about coaching's 24/7. It's the relationships you have with your players. It's being able to have conversations with them on Mondays about, how they prepare during the week. Yeah, there are some adjustments that you make. I think I've said this before. I think that's a little bit overrated. I think it's the work and the relationships you have with your players during the week that really make a big difference.
Yeah, Brian, what are some of the consistent traits this defense has that transfer from game to game that maybe your past defenses didn't have here?
Well, I think it starts at the back end of the defense, coverage ability, tackling. We've been really good tacklers. So I think that stands out right away as the ability to cover down, contested throws, tackling in the back end of the defense. Those things start to really show themselves. And then I think the front seven plays well together. It's well synced. In other words, Perk had that big sack early on. Jack's heading up the field, pulls the tackle, we wrap him underneath. They're just working well together. So I think that just having a second year in the scheme and everybody feeling comfortable with Blake's scheme up front, and then the coverage ability and tackling ability on the back end would be probably the two things that I would highlight.
Coach, you've had just 3 plays in the passing game of 20 yards or more. It's the last ranks last in the SEC. Why hasn't the offense been able to generate more
We haven't
explosive?
played an SEC game. How do we rank last in
Fair.
the SEC?
Very fair.
We'll play Florida, and then we'll tell you whether we're last.
Perfect. But why hasn't the
You
offense?
guys can spin anything. I thought I was the guy that was supposed to spin it. You guys are supposed to ask more pertinent questions. Go ahead.
Better question. Why hasn't the offense been able to generate more explosive plays so far before SEC play?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's a little bit of both, right? You've seen what we're doing. We're a lot more creative relative to the running game and getting some explosive plays. I think Barry and Brown had an explosive play in the running game. Xavier had explosive. Harlem had an explosive. I think those explosive plays maybe went to the receivers last year, and you're seeing more explosive plays in the run game. We need to score more points. And I think really the issue for me more than anything else is converting in those tough territory areas and scoring touchdowns instead of field goals. I like the balance now that we have explosive receivers that can catch it, but we also can run the ball and get some explosive. We really struggled with that last year. And so where I'll really be interested in see where this thing falls is our conversion rate in the red zone. That's really where I'm focused right now, is converting in the red zone and scoring touchdowns instead of field goals.
Now that you've played a whole game without Braylon Moore, what did you learn about his value to the offense, his value to the team, and what kind of that he allows the offense to do?
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where we saw what he did in game one, and he played very well. He was SEC Player of the Week. A lot of people felt that way too, and we did, certainly. We're just fortunate that we have another player that can step in and do a really good job for us. And DJ started 13 games last year. For him to come in on the second play and be mentally ready to do it. And I think that's a really big thing. Some guys mentally have a hard time not starting and not being in the game. And then when you put them in, it's hard for them to be in that performance mindset, right? They've been sitting around. And he's unique in that way. He's mature. He can step in. So I think this really says a lot more about what we know we have with Braylon Moore was on display against Clemson. And then what we saw this past weekend is that we have a number 2 who can play as a number 1. And that's a really good asset.
Over here in the middle. So Billy Napier, I know you have some experience playing against him. I'm wondering, I'm asking this in the context of, a lot of people calling for his head down there. You don't have to comment on that, but I would welcome it.
Crazy.
But,
Craziness.
But what have you learned about him as a coach, and what are your impressions
He's a really
of him?
good football coach. He knows his team. He knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. You can see it on film. He's building a culture that is fit to his eye in terms of what he wants to do. He's doing it his way. And that's awesome. I think that, look, I came in here, right, and Ed was here. He won a national championship, right? But he did it his way, right? It was his way, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way they wanted to make a change. I do it my way. It takes time to put in your philosophy and the way you like to do things. You know, I do them a lot different than Ed does, but he still won, right? They asked for a change. I came. It takes time to make that change, and it's the same thing with Billy. Billy's come in after 2 or 3 other head coaches that changed the way the other coaches did it. And now he's starting to stabilize that program. So people talk about whatever they want. It's crazy. It takes you what it takes. And he'll get that thing where he wants it. I think he's got it right now. They beat us last year. So, again, we need to worry about us, and that's what we do. I worry about what we do on a day-to-day basis and make sure we're prepared to be our best on Saturday. Was that considered a rant? Close? It was borderline rant? No, I can't do that anymore. They make memes of that. Did I? I did the fake. It was a fake. Or a comedy hour, if you want that, you know.
I don't know where to go from all there. Did Harlan Berry earn more touches moving forward after how he played?
He required a conversation because, you know, look, running the football is so much more about next level and making people miss. He did a great job. He made a couple guys miss, extended a play. We knew he was talented, right? I mean, this is much more about, you know, catching up to the system that we run, right? Protections out of the backfield, you know, right reads, those things. You know, but it required a conversation that this is a guy that we've got to keep an eye on.
Speaking of conversations, we've seen 2 penalties, one in the NFL and one in college this weekend, personal fouls that maybe change the course of games. Do you take this moment to speak to your team about the impact that, you know, one play could have using these examples?
Well, we don't talk about specifically spitting at somebody because that's, you know, that's not even an issue that I would broach because it just, that's not the kind of guy we want you to be, right? But we do talk about emotional control. We talk about emotional stability, being in the moment, making sure that the moment's not too big for you. And if you have to resort to something like that, then you're not in control of your emotions. And if you're not in control of your emotions, you could hurt your team, you could hurt yourself, and you could find yourself in a position where you're suspended and your team loses a game. So we can only put guys on the field that can control their emotions and are stable and mature and can do the right things in the big moments. Because this is LSU. Every moment's a big moment. And so we evaluate it from that perspective. And you get an opportunity in practice to see what happens. Are you a guy that takes your helmet off and wants to get into a fight right away? Or can you go compete hard every single play and come back to the next play and not let something like that get you out of your emotional zone? Good? All right, thank you.